Greetings, fellow Earthlings and viewers across the World Wide Web. This is Tune 215, and right now we're in the state of Pennsylvania. We're currently in the city of Philadelphia. Today we're going to be doing a virtual tour of the Olney neighborhood, located in Upper North Philadelphia, PA. Right now we're approaching 4th Street. We're at the intersection of Oldney Avenue and 4th Street. We're traveling eastbound on the 300 block of Oldney Avenue. We're at the intersection of 3rd and Oldney Avenue, 3rd Street. If you look to my left and to my right, you'll notice that the Olney neighborhood has enclosed porches. The facade for most of the homes are pretty much the same. You have the brick pointing on the 1st floor and the siding on the 2nd floor. You can see a variation of rooftops. We're at 2nd and Oldney Avenue. The sun is beginning to set behind us, which is to the west. We just passed 2nd Street. We're gonna take this about another block or two up, and then we're gonna make a right-hand turn, and then we'll head westbound. We have a CCTV camera on my left-hand side on the pole. We're at Oldney and Masher Street. We just passed the 5800 block of Masher Street. We're passing Howard Street. This is the neighborhood when a woman was SA assaulted in Center City, Philadelphia, after she got off of public transportation. We're gonna make this right-hand turn on Front Street. The person who was the one who assaulted her and was on the run, he was from this neighborhood, specifically the area that we just passed. When they apprehended him and he ended up on the news, he was hiding in one of those houses. He had cut his hair, he had dreadlocks, and then after he did the crime, he cut his hair and thought no one would notice him, but there was a reward out for him and someone gave him up. We're passing Hope Street. Now we're passing Howard Street. We're at the intersection of Grange Ave and Masher Street. We're traveling westbound on the 200 block of Grange Ave. On our left, we have Rita's Water Ice. For those of you who don't know what Rita's Water Ice is, it's basically like an Italian icy. And usually during the first day of spring, they give away free water ice just to attract customers. We have Michigan tags on my right-hand side. We're approaching 2nd Street, the intersection of Grange Avenue and 2nd Street. We have a salon on our right-hand side. We're passing the 5800 block of Phillip Street to our right. This is primarily a residential neighborhood, but there is a business commercial strip on 5th Street, which we'll be passing shortly. This is a very diverse neighborhood. There's a wide range of residents, from Asian to Hispanic, African American, and more. We're passing 3rd and Grange. Now we're at 4th Street. Now within the last couple of years, there's been a lot of gun-related crimes in the area. Now back in the day, before my time, this was an ideal neighborhood to live in. We're passing Lawrence Street. Now we're at 5th Street. We have a funeral chapel on my right-hand side. I do have a vehicle behind me, so I apologize. I'm traveling about 15 miles an hour just to stay out of their way. They just turned off. All right, we're at 6th and Grange. I'm gonna take this about another 2 blocks before I make a left. So we're gonna start this virtual tour off traveling eastbound, westbound, and vice versa. I have documented this neighborhood many times before, traveling both south and north and east and west. We're passing Marshall Street. Now the blocks on my left and on my right are a bit more dense. The block we're traveling on right now, Grange Avenue, is not as dense when it comes to housing. We're gonna make this left-hand turn on 7th Street, the 5700 block of 7th Street, and you're gonna notice a ton of houses on my left and on my right. Row home format. They have small lawns. If you take a look at the front of their property, not only do they have an enclosed porch, some of them have open porches, make note, but they also have a several-foot lawn with 2 sets of steps that take them to their front door. And then you have a sidewalk. There's a little piece of grass on the sidewalk too. Now that is damn near the closest thing to the suburbs you're gonna get being this close in North Philadelphia, because most of North Philadelphia doesn't have any grass out front of their property. They don't have any lawns. There is no grass on the sidewalks. They don't have raised porches in most parts of North Philly. Most houses don't even have a porch. A porch is like a luxury when you're in the city. Porch, patio, sunroom, whatever you want to consider it. We're at 6th and Chew Avenue. We're passing Fairhill Street. Now we're getting closer to the business district. This business district has Vietnamese restaurants, Korean businesses. It has, I believe, Mexican restaurants. People from South America come here and start restaurants and whatnot. We're passing 5th and Chew Ave. We just passed the Caribbean restaurant. Passing Lawrence Street. Now, if you notice the parking on this block, you have parking that is traditional parallel parking, and then you have regular pull-in parking. Diagonal parking in a sense. We're at 3rd and Chew Ave. We're approaching another little shopping plaza that locals around here can shop at. We're about, I would say, 2.5 blocks away from the other shopping plaza. Passing American Street. I have a vehicle behind me, so I apologize. I'm doing 19 miles per hour. Speed limit is 25. We're at 2nd and Chew Ave. Now we're passing Palethorpe Street. Now we're passing Masher Street. I'm gonna pull over because this vehicle is driving a lot faster than I would like to drive right now. We're passing Howard Street. Now we're passing Hope. Now approaching Front Street, and this is 1 and Olney Plaza. There's a Wells Fargo, a ShopRite, a Young World, a Burlington Coat Factory, a CSL Plasma health business, a haircut business, Burger King, and more. This is one of the other shopping options that people have nearby. Now, obviously, they can travel throughout the city if they want more specialty stores, but this is what they have in walking distance. We're gonna make this right-hand turn. That's the plaza in front of us. We're not gonna go through it, but there is a whole plaza. We're passing Wentz Street, the 100 block of West Wentz Street on our right. Now we're approaching Oldney Ave. I'm gonna make this right-hand turn on the 100 block of Oldney Ave. That girl just ate the stop sign. Everybody beeped at her. She almost got into an accident. All right, now we're on Olney. We're on Oldney Ave in the Olney neighborhood. It's spelled Olney, O-L-N-E-Y, but most locals, including myself, just say Olney. We have the 5500 block of Masher to our left and the 5600 block of Masher to our right at the intersection of Olney and Masher. About 2.5 years ago, a couple blocks in front of us, I believe on 6th Street. And for reference, we're about to hit 2nd Street. I believe it was on 6th and Rockland, if I'm correct. There was a news segment that covered a gentleman was found deceased below a bridge next to a little water stream, and he was tied up and deceased. We're passing Palethorpe Street, and it was said, if I have the story correct, I don't know if if I'm missing some details. It could be a little rusty. I haven't looked into that case in a while, but he was lured there by a female, and then gentlemen attacked him. Some guys attacked him, and boom, he didn't make it. We're passing American Street. I don't know if it was a robbery or something of that nature, but when you come to this neighborhood, there's not normally people out soliciting on corners like you would see in other parts of Philadelphia, specifically North Philly. There's other parts of North Philly where you go through the hood parts, and you would see groups, little cliques on every other corner hanging out. In this area, even though there's crime that takes place, you don't see people hanging on the corner politicking. Now we're passing 4th Street. Now for reference, Olney from Center City, Philadelphia, I would say it's about 20 minutes, give or take, depending on traffic. That's a key factor. But we're not far from Broad Street. We just passed Lawrence. So if you go down Broad Street is a main artery, and it'll take you straight to the heart of Center City. We're at 5th and Olney. It's a popular intersection amongst locals. We pass a lot of barbershops. There's an African restaurant, auto businesses. There was an appliance business also. Now I could continue moving forward. I'm gonna take it probably to 7th Street. We're passing 6th Street now. I'm gonna take it to 7th Street. And then we're gonna make a left and try to make another left. I'm traveling 20 miles an hour, but I do have traffic behind me. And the speed limit on my right is 30, as you can see. So I'm 10 miles below the speed limit. Another thing you'll take note of is this neighborhood has double wide streets, 2 lanes. Most parts of North Philly, there's a single lane street. So if somebody was to double park like that, like you just saw the woman talking to somebody in the car, you would either A, have to wait behind them, or B, beep, or C, reverse. Passing Marshall Street. Passing 6th Street. You see the houses on my right, you see how the style changed, the architecture changed a bit compared to what we've been passing. That's because we're on the connecting avenues and the blocks that are designed to go a little bit faster. You wouldn't want to drive too fast through the residential blocks, but these are the blocks that people normally drive a bit faster on. Passing 5th and Tabor. We're on Tabor, entering the 400 block of Tabor. Now at the intersection of Tabor and Lawrence Street. We have a cafe on my right hand side, Cafe Liz, and a PNC Bank on my left. We're at 4th and Tabor. This is Tabor Road, to be exact. Entering the 300 block of Tabor Road. We have First Presbyterian Church of Olney on our left-hand side. And on our right-hand side, we have Philly Cleaners, a dry cleaning business. Passing 3rd and Tabor Road. I'm gonna make this left-hand turn on American Street. We couldn't make a right because if we would have made a right, there's train tracks that we can't get past. So now we're traveling northbound. We're at the intersection of American Street and Clarkson Ave. And again, notice the variation on our right. No porches, then it changes to porches. And on our left, enclosed porches, then it changes to open porches. Then you got raised lawns, and then you have lowered lawns. The lowered lawns are on street level. The raised lawns are about 3-4 feet above street level. So this is a lot closer to Northeast. You actually have to pass the Roosevelt Boulevard to get to Olney if you're coming from Center City. And most neighborhoods past the Roosevelt Boulevard are styled similar to this, if not a lot more uniform. Like when you get to Oxford Circle and to Cotman, the neighborhoods get really uniform. It almost looks like the American Dream style homes from the advertisements back in the 50s. But then again, a lot of these homes in the Northeast neighborhoods were built around the 40s and 50s. See, a lot of the North Philadelphia homes, like the true North, when you get deeper north, closer to Girard or Lehigh Avenue and whatnot, and even Allegheny Avenue area, a lot of those homes were made in the early 1900s, like 1912, 1920, 1930, and so on. Most of them 1920 and whatnot. These homes and further areas in the Northeast were made in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. It was far enough away from the city for people, but close enough, if that makes any sense. Back in the day, it put you away from all of the nonsense, but you were still close enough where if you needed to travel, you can travel. As I mentioned, you go down Broad Street and you go straight to the heart of the city in no time. There's an apartment building on my right, so some of these buildings, more than likely, they're sectioned off for apartments. Depends on the property owner, what they did with their property. Like that building that we just passed on my right, probably similar to this one. Yes, this one on my right also. You see that brick building? There's 4 apartments. I see apartment 1, 2, 3, and 4. A house in this neighborhood, I'm estimating. I don't have any actual facts. We just passed some Florida tags. But a house in this neighborhood, I would estimate rent-wise, if you wanted to rent a home in this area, anywhere from on the low end, if you're lucky, $850, $900 a month. And then upwards of $1,200, $1,300 a month. Again, it depends on the home and it depends on your exact location. But most homes in this area rent around $900 to $1,000 a month. And that's just me taking an educated guess, a hypothesis. If you wanted to buy a home in this area, I would estimate 150 grand to possibly 250 grand. We're at the intersection of 4th and Oldney Avenue. There's not many abandoned homes in this area. Like there's some parts of North Philly where you'll see a lot of abandoned homes, which might I add in some areas, again, hard to find. Abandoned homes in certain areas of North Philly are like a needle in a haystack. Especially South Philly and Northeast and those parts, like there's damn near no abandoned homes. We just passed Clarkson, 4th and Clarkson. But if you go to certain parts, there's a lot. Like some blocks, like Strawberry Mansion and Allegheny West, you'll find a dozen abandoned homes in a period of 2 or 3 blocks. But over here, there's very few abandoned homes. A lot of the homes are still utilized and in use. If there is an abandoned home, it's probably because maybe a fire or something happened. We're at Somerville and 4th Street. I'm gonna make this right-hand turn on Somerville. But being located close to the Northeast, we're in upper North Philadelphia. having wider streets, having the front lawns. So let's make this right on the 5400 block of Lawrence Street. Having the front lawns, having the porches, the patios. Some of them have garages in the back and whatnot. It made it more of an ideal living space. You gotta also take into consideration, we're talking about the 50s here, 1950s, when these homes were first made. A lot of these homes had families in them. Blue collar families from back in the day. Got traffic coming. A lot of those families moved out many years ago for whatever their reason was. And then a lot of minorities moved in throughout the years. Now minorities damn near make up the majority of the neighborhood. When allow this mother and her child to cross the street. All right, we're gonna continue moving forward. Gotta be careful because both blind spots are blocked by parked vehicles. There's on my left and on my right, there's cars parked, if not on the X, very close to the X. And that X is to give drivers who are crossing the street the ability to see if there's traffic coming. But if you block that X, then we gotta literally fish our whole tail into the street, or our nose in this case, just to see if traffic's coming. Alright, we just exited the 5600 block of Lawrence Street. We're entering the 5700 block of Lawrence Street. So you got the angle parking on my right. What type of parking do you prefer? Do you prefer angle parking or do you prefer parallel parking? Look at these people on my right, they have their own driveway. So that's more convenient for them. They don't have to worry about finding parking. But as you can see, not everybody has a driveway. Now they may have acquired the lot that was next to them and then decided to use it for parking. Back in the day, there was a dollar housing program in Philadelphia. There was a lot of houses with that were just shells or abandoned homes that had a long list of taxes that were owed. They were in poor shape. They were vacant. So the city was doing auctions, and they were also, to my understanding, they had a dollar house program. In some cases, if there was a lot next to your property and you were caring for it, you can just apply in the city and the city would actually gift you the property under certain circumstances. You may have had to like keep it clean and keep it as a community garden for 2 years or something. And after you completed your end of the deal, then they would have gave you the property and you would have received the deed. That also happened too. So a lot of these people that they may have a lot next to their house, that could be the case. They either bought it for a very low price, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, a couple $100 depending on the year, because things were selling a lot cheaper back in the 80s and the early 90s. But you got to keep in mind that inflation was different. So a couple $100 back then, or $2,000, $3,000 back then, was probably the equivalent to $10,000 nowadays, and so on. You know. Nowadays, if you try to buy an empty lot in some of these neighborhoods, you're gonna spend anywhere from $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for an empty row home lot, which you still gotta put property on. You have Michael P. Marcus Educational Center on our left-hand side. It's a school. I believe it's an elementary school. All right, we're traveling southbound on 5th Street. You guys are gonna get a better look at this business district. We just passed a sign that said 5th and Olney Shopping Center. There's a lot of wholesale businesses here too. If you go down a little further, I would say 4 or 5 blocks in front of us, there's a lot of wholesale spots where you can get t-shirts, socks, undergarments, hoodies, and so on. Like if you're into clothing design and stuff and you need to buy wholesale product, this used to be the spot to go to. If you were like a vendor, street vendor or something. We're passing Olney. We're on the 5500 block of 5th Street. This block, there's always someone double parked here, but as you can see, it's wide enough for people to still travel through. But some days you'll go through here and the whole block will be double parked. There'll be like 10, 15 cars all double parked on top of the cars that are already parked. Now, if you want to see more of this neighborhood, feel free to explore my channel. I have over 600 videos covering all different neighborhoods in Philadelphia, including Olney, and over 400 plus neighborhoods across the nation, covering 48 states. Some of these neighborhoods, in order to go through them properly and document them, in a virtual tour, you would need a good 2 to 3 hours, if that, depending on the size of the neighborhood. There are some neighborhoods where you can get done in a half an hour. One of those neighborhoods is the Devil's Pocket. The Devil's Pocket, I can do that probably about a half an hour. It's a small neighborhood. But there's some neighborhoods that's a lot bigger, because we can go further right on Somerville Ave, for example, or even down Olney and take it to Broad Street. And there's a lot more blocks over there that I've covered in other videos, but we just wouldn't be able to cover them all in this one sitting. Sunoco gas on my right is $3.67 for regular. We have a ton more businesses coming up here. We're about, I would say, 4 to 5 blocks away from the Roosevelt Boulevard, which is considered to be one of the deadliest highways in America. I've documented that before also. We just passed Delphine. We're at 5th and Fisher Ave. 5th and Fisher Ave. Now, as you can see, there's cars on our left. There's a bunch of cars behind me too, so I have to keep it flowing with traffic. Traveling about 20 miles an hour, southbound on 5th Street. We're at 5th and Duncannon Ave. The Volkswagen Beetle on my right has a wheel boot. The yellow boot, you see it? That's normally placed there by PPA when you don't pay, I believe it's 2 or more tickets or 3 or more tickets for a long period of time. They put a boot on your vehicle. and they'll tow it within 24 hours if you don't make the payment to take the boot off. So you got to pay your old tickets, however many hundreds of dollars your old tickets are, and then you got to pay the boot removal fee, which could be $150 to $200. Used to be a show in Philadelphia called Parking Wars. It was on, I believe, A&E, the channel called A&E. It was called Parking Wars. And they did a couple episodes in this area. They did a couple episodes in North Philly. They did a couple episodes in Center City. They did a couple episodes in South Philly. Yeah. We're at 5th and Ruscombe. Ton of businesses on my right and on my left. There's a giant box in the street, so I'm gonna go around the box, kind of play chicken with the other vehicle, but I didn't want to drive directly over the box. We just passed O'Terry's Bakery. It's a family-owned bakery on my left that's pretty popular amongst Philadelphia locals. They like going there for their baked goods, their bread, things like that. And now we're approaching the Roosevelt Boulevard, which will take us out of the Olney neighborhood.